Hey everybody, Briggsville here doing another video of Company of Heroes. This is a game between the German Diamond and the Russian EXPERTSVonIvan. I will call you Ivan because it's too long of a bloody name. We are playing on Colonni Firma. I'll just Colonni. Probably not saying that correctly, but what are you going to do? So, this map is the summer side map rather than the winter. It would have said it was the winter, but it's not, it's the summer. It's very important that you obviously hold the stars. It would be very useful to do such a thing because that's the whole point of the game, as it is a victory point game. Just waiting for this game to load up. It's taking its bloody time. Right, close now. Here we go. So, in the left-hand side, or the west side, we've got the blue Germans of Diamond, and in the east side, the red of the Soviets, Ivan. Let's get this on. So, the Germans start with building their first building and moving out with their pioneers. The engineers are also moving out for the Russian side. And will look like they'll take this first point. Excellent stuff. As do the Germans take their first point on their side. Which means there might be even a little bit of a fight in the middle very, very soon between the two engineers. Because obviously they will be better to handle. Here we have the Grenadiers coming into play. They look like they're heading down to the south area as the pioneers now move north to the next point. The Russian engineers are moving south to their next position, and they've brought in a conscript infantry, which I will dub cons. They are cons. So the cons are going to move to the north, probably going for that point there, but may even go on to go for the star, the North Star. I refer to the victory points as stars because that's just how I roll. They are victory points, VPs maybe people will call them, but unless. MG42 HMG team comes into play, as does another con squad. Grenadiers now moving to take another point as the pioneers for the Germans take the fuel point. The engineers are slowly taking this southward point and then probably move on to the next fuel point, as there is a little battle here between the cons and the pioneers. The cons will certainly win this game, or this fight, should I say. As the pioneers fall back. Grenadiers are moving in to take this ammunition point, which is a highly contested position in this map, so rather enjoyable game. Cons will now get engaged by the German HMGs and the Grenadiers. Cons are in not a good position and they retreat back. The middle star is going down for the Germans. The pioneer unit there, they've lost a man though, so that can't be good. They bring another Grenadier squad in as well. Cons are now moving towards the centre for the Russian side as the engineers are moving south to take this southerly point. The cons have finally taken that fuel point to the north, although it's out of region, so it's not doing them any good at all. I'm going to turn the sounds off because I forgot to do it. Apologies for that. I'm also going to turn the master volume down just a touch. There we go. So there's going to be a bit of a fight here between the Grenadiers and the cons for this middle point here. While this is going on, we've got the pioneers taking that ammo position there. There's now a fight here between the Grenadiers and the cons taking this fuel point as the HMG team open up. This is not a good position for the cons. They're going to have to fall back shortly. The cons are losing men here up at this northerly point as the Germans are in cover, but they are far superior infantry as far as I'm concerned. The pioneers are trying to engage on this con squad, but that's not going to end very healthily, and the pioneers must retreat. They must retreat. or they will be wiped out completely, which would be an absolute waste. And they are sticking. They're going to be absolutely wiped out if they're not careful, and they are. The HMG and the Grenadier squad is going to take this fuel point, which means that the southerly point is out of territory, and the Grenadiers take a bloody Molotov and they lose 2 of their men, but the con squad has taken 4 men damage, as this northerly point is going to be taken, the northerly star is going to be taken by the con squad. The HMT is about to get flanked here by the engineers, which is never a good sign, although the engineers aren't exactly the best infantry unit to have, as the German HMG is just going to focus on the con squad rather than even bothering to turn it. The Germans are finally regaining some of this ground, as it looks like it's slowly going into the Germany favour. They are slowly taking the ground that is needed as the Grenadier take the fuel point. Cons have taken this northerly point though, as the battle down here is kind of finishing off here. The HMG squad's taken some damage, but they've held off the people for the fuel point. It's not a bad little fuel point to have controlled. Battle phase 1 has been done by the Germans, so that is always going to be a good thing, because the next building would be the mechanized company. But it not always happens that they actually build the mechanized company. They may even go to the next one. HMG there takes quite a lot of damage from the Molotov cocktail that went into the building. Not too much worry though, because they are going to retreat out. For some reason, no one has still taken this point down here. The Germans, if they were to take it, would actually be in a bit of a lead right now, but instead they are focusing on this middle point and trying to hold the ground to the north, which they are not doing at all well at the moment. The mechanized company comes down, as does the commanders. Which will he choose? There's no choice been made just yet, or at least I've not been shown that there's been a choice being made, as their infantry Grenadiers is going to be coming under quite a lot of fire here if they are not careful. So the Grenadiers get into position as the middle star is finally going down for the Germans, as a half-track comes into play for the Germans. Grenadiers have finally got a first point of veterancy, as the HMG is also getting veterancy engaging this con squad, which is a very good position to have that in. The Grenadiers have taken a massive Molotov cocktail to the face there, which wasn't very pleasant at all by the con squad, and the Pioneers are coming in just to literally get absolutely murdered. The middle star has finally been taken for the Russians, and the Russians are slowly starting to take a lead. The Germans are going to move in though with HMGs and Grenadiers for this middle spot, because they must take it. They must take it. The HMG finally retreats after overwhelming odds, and this Grenadier squad is, although less than half health, is still got 4 men up, which is quite a feat, to be honest. The fight between the Grenadiers and the HMG has finally been won, so the middle ground is going to be pushed to the Germans, as finally the cons will take this fuel depot to the south. Neutralization of this point in the middle means that although the Germans are still losing points, they're not losing them as fast as before. So all these points are now being taken by the Russians. We've got the con squad to the south taking the fuel depot, the con squad to the middle that's taking the middle point, and the engineer squad taking the point in the middle there, and another German pioneer squad is taking that point there. But at the moment it looks like the favour has gone to the Russians. The Russians are starting to get more and more units onto the field, although this half track here, which has been upgraded with the flame projectors, or Flamenwerth or whatever they're called, is going to engage this con squad with severe repercussions for the con squad. But they get a nice decent shot off on the half track and give it a lot of damage there. To the south, we've got the infantry, the con squad of the Russians finally taking the southern point, which is probably one of the only stars that hasn't been taken in this entire game, which is very strange indeed. But nonetheless, the HMG squad here is trying to give some cover, but it's not in a very good position, I don't think, and it's only focusing, I think it's focusing on the wrong squad, because this con squad here is going to move, and it's just going to drop right on top of this HMG, and it's going to start to take a lot of damage. Well, actually, well, the con squad has decided just to stand there like a bunch of idiots and just take the hits. If there was a Molotov that went down there, that would have been over for the HMG squad, but nonetheless, the Grenadiers are coming in now to reinforce and take this bottom star, finally, for the Germans, which they should have done probably 5 minutes ago. Anyway, further contacts here. This Panzer Grenadier squad, which is obviously a better infantry than the normal Grenadier squad, is going to take this ammunition point as the half track is engaging these cons, doing some good damage there actually. As the bottom star is going down, the bottom star and the north star is also going down for the Germans, which means that the Russians are going to start to lose some heavy points. The Pioneer squad is about to get absolutely murdered here, unfortunately for them, but this half track here is going to try and push in, I'd imagine, as the Molotov goes down, and another infantry Pioneer squad has been destroyed by a conscript infantry squad. The Germans are now in a very commanding lead. They are pushing the Russians further and further back. The Russians really have only just started building their first building, which means that they've literally only had conscript infantry squads, whereas the Germans have got half tracks, they've got Panzer Grenadiers, they've also got Grenadiers, they've also got HMGs, which there's one there that's going to engage all those infantry. What a very beautiful position that that HMG squad is in. The only problem is the numbers of the Russians are just going to waltz straight through, and they're going to drop a Molotov cocktail right on top of their heads. There we go. Bye bye HMG squad, see you later. The half track comes in though from the rear and does do some severe damage to those two con squads, but the HMG is gone completely and the other con squads decided to retreat, which is quite a strange situation there. They haven't really got anything to take that out. So what's left here? We've got a big push here from Grenadiers and Panzer Grenadiers to the bottom point here. They're going to slowly move towards this next point, which is got conscript infantry. They're going to lose 2 men there on the Grenadiers very quickly. The Pioneers taking that north point. Molotov goes down. The Grenadier squad's completely wiped out. That's great play by the conscript infantry, but they will fall back as the Panzer Grenadiers lose another man. Field gun into place here for the Russians, trying to take out this half track, which is not going to work. They do take a shot and get half a hit, but this half track is absolutely murdering this infantry. But the field gun is going to get some hits on this. It's got one more hit and it's dead. It's dead. Surely that thing is dead. It's got no gun and it's abandoned. That could be a massive thing for the Russians if they capture that vehicle. If they capture that vehicle and use it against the Germans, that would be pretty damn good. So the Russians have lost 150 points and the Germans have only lost less than 50. This is looking dire for the Russians, but they need to start moving out and start moving out quickly. They are taking their first 2 points and heading north towards this next point. They've captured the HMG squad, also a very interesting point. They've done exactly what I thought they would do. They took the half track, which has got the flame. That could be very useful against, at the moment, infantry. There is only infantry on the board for the Germans. That Grenadier squad that was completely taken out and the 2 Pioneer squads that were both taken out have started to prove ill for the Germans, because they've had to replace them, and they've used the resources against them that they should be using right now to bring out a tank, which is what they're doing at the moment. This tank would have been out 2 or 3 minutes earlier, I'd imagine, if those squads hadn't have been replaced. Here is the first Panzer IV tank onto the field. The field gun is in not a great position at the moment, because it's not really doing anything whatsoever. The Russians, however, are starting to push to the north. I'd imagine that's where the Panzer Grenadiers and the Grenadiers are going right this second. The HMG squad is engaging this con squad to the south, but it's doing some decent damage. But this half-track that's been captured by the Russians is going to murder this half-track, this HMG squad. The Panzer IV is getting into action against this middle point here, but it's too late for this HMG squad. You can run away all you want, but you are going to lose. And you lose one man, you lose a second man, and you are very lucky to get out alive there. The Russians are finally taking this northerly point, but it's really not going to do much against this tank. This tank is a big deal. It's a massive deal. If the Russians need to destroy this tank if they want any chance of winning this game, because they've lost another 100 points. They are still losing points as a Stug comes into play. Stug 3 comes into play. The Russians need to get something out that can destroy them. The field gun here can do some damage, but not enough to really warrant any kind of victory for this Russian team. The shock troops finally come in for the Russians, and they start to get to work straight away by trying to take this southerly point. The Germans, though, are stalling. They've got 2 tanks out, but their infantry is really starting to suffer. Start to suffer big. The half-track's trying to engage the Stug here. Not doing such a great job there, sons. But the cons get a nice little hit on the Stug 3 there, which damaged their engine quite badly, which gives this field gun a chance here to take out this tank, because its turning circle is going to be slow now that it's got it's lost a lot of its engine. And its first shot is good. Its first shot is really good on this tank. They need to get another one straight away. They do get a second shot, and they've knocked the gunner out, which is even better. Can they get a third shot on this gun? They don't. They miss it just about. Panzer IV is coming in here to try and take out this con squad, neutralising this point. The tide has completely turned for the Russian team. They have gone from absolutely getting murdered to absolutely murdering this group. This Stug's finally going to go down, surely. There it is. It's completely done. There's no way this can go anywhere, and that's it, surely. That is out of control. Yeah, there we go. The Panzer IV has taken a hit to its engine, but it's still doing some damage. Grenade goes down, all the Panzer Grenadiers take a big hit there. That was unpleasant. The neutralisation of this North Star for the Grenadiers is quite a good job, because although they haven't actually got a point on the board at the moment, the Germans, they need to get this to stop the points from falling. They have got 180 point lead, 180, yeah, I'll just use the maths in my brain. This field gun has done an epic job of absolutely murdering these tanks that have come out, and a second one is coming into play now. These field guns have been worth their weight in gold as far as the Russian teams. They've been the difference between this being an absolute massacre to being a victory for the Russian side. And I can't see the Russians failing in this. There's just too much on the board for the Russians to be failing. So the Russians are finally going to get this middle squad, it would seem. That half-track that became the Russians has really paid dividends. Really paid really good money. Almost as good as the field guns. They have not taken this middle place yet. Why, I don't know. But they've taken the bottom star for sure. They're taking this ammunition point, which is going to give them a little bit of a bonus. And this half-track is literally just going around the whole map, murdering as many infantry as possible, which is very, very fun to watch. Cons coming in the middle, and what is this? This is a T-70 light tank. T-70 light tank. Let's just focus on this for a second here. T-70 is going to start to move north. It looks like it wants to take that top star. Not a bad choice to do, my friend. Can the cons finally take this middle point? It would seem that that is exactly what they're doing. This half-track's taken some hits, but they will be repaired right this second by the squad that's come in right now. The T-70 is engaging the HMG as more infantry come in for the Germans, but there is not enough. There is absolutely no way that the Germans can win from this situation if they don't get something on the field right now and start to engage these infantry and team. Another T-70 has come into play, which is a very, very useful thing, as this half-track is down. It is down. That's unlucky for the Russian side because they took this half-track from the Germans and they used it really well, but unluckily for them they got taken. Panzer Grenadiers put a nice little bundle grenade onto that field gun and then knocked one of the people out, unfortunately. Those field guns are very difficult to destroy unless you use flame type units. But it looks like this is seriously looking very dire for the Germans, sorry, as the T-70 is destroyed, which is a very good move by those grenadiers. These pioneers should do some decent damage against these field guns if the field guns are not careful, as the T-70 comes into play. Those infantry units really started to suffer as they go down. They may lose that field gun though. Yep, the field gun goes down, unfortunately for them. But it's not really worried for the Russians now because the Germans are losing more and more points. They're losing more points and they've lost more infantry, and there is almost no way that they can come back from this. Surely there is no way they can come back from this. Absolutely no chance, I'd have thought. If I'd stake any money on it, I'd say the Russians have got this sorted. Because these infantry may be able to take out this T-70, but the T-70 there's another one coming behind it, plus more infantry coming in behind it, and I just don't see these infantry doing enough damage to this middle area to warrant any chance of success here. They've done some seriously great damage on the tank though. There's no doubting that they've done a great job, and they've destroyed it. The Panzer Grenadiers did get a great hit there and destroyed it, but they lost far too many infantry. They went in with 12 men and came out with only 5 remaining. So they lost almost half of their units going into that battle. The Russians have literally gone from the brink of disaster, the brink of failure and loss, to being dominantly winning this game. All they have to do is just hold the ground that they've got now. They don't even need to push any further. They can just literally hold the ground. They are losing points, and they're losing points all across the board. They are nearly even in points, which, you know, not 5 minutes ago they were 200 or like 180 points ahead. Oh, what a shame for the Germans. The German Panzer Grenadiers are going to start to move south here, but there is no real chance that they can do anything really against the force that is starting to be amassed into the middle section here. We've got two T-70s, we've got two field guns, we've got this half-track backup for the Russians. They destroyed the people inside it, they captured it, they got their own people destroyed by the Germans, and they've captured it back again. Brilliant play by the Russians. The Germans are starting to focus further on the south. I'm not too sure the Russians will even be that bothered about it, really, if I'm honest. There's going to be a little bit of a fight here between this HMG squad, which the Russians have taken over, and the Panzer Grenadiers. The Panzer Grenadiers are not going to do too good there. Shock troops have moved into this middle point as the bottom star is going to be neutralised and possibly taken over by the Panzer Grenadier squads. The ammunition point is definitely going to be taken for the Germans, but the cons are going to contest this as best they can. The two T-70s have decided, hey Panzer Grenadiers, would you like some fire with that death? And here we go, yes. Two of the Panzer Grenadiers are completely dead. And another further one. And the whole team of Panzer Grenadiers was just massacred. Absolutely massacred. This Panzer Grenadier unit has lost half of its group against these cons, who are literally the best that they could ever be. The other Panzer Grenadiers are going to come in behind, but they are in very poor cover, and they are losing men left, right and centre. Panzer Grenadiers are both failing horribly here. The cons have taken a bit of damage. They've lost one Panzer Grenadier unit. The second is about to retreat, and that must spell the end here. The Panzer Grenadiers are going to try and push the middle, but they've got nothing left. They've got nothing left at all. The Russians have done a fantastic job of holding the ground that they needed and getting as much force out and using all the resources they had available to their advantage. The Germans lost this game in probably two areas. The first was they lost two Pioneer squads and a Grenadier squad when they could have retreated and saved their units. Those resources could have been used better earlier, and instead, fortunately, the Germans failed quite miserably. The Panzer IV and the Stug weren't utilised well enough, and here, just to add insult to injury, artillery or some kind of airstrike is coming inbound. Yeah, there we go. And unfortunately for the Germans, they have lost this battle. They are bringing in another Panzer IV here, but it's not going to be done in time. Very well played by the Russians. So, a victory for EXPERTSVonIvan against Diamond. That was a very enjoyable game. And just to add even more insult to infantry, let's bring the half track that we captured from you earlier on in the game to absolutely murder your base. Hey, like some fire? Yes, please. There we have it. Great game. I enjoyed that a lot. What I'd class as a very good comeback from the Russian squad there. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed doing it for you. And see you next time.